Eurobike 2022, day one here for GMBNtech. Let's go and find out what's cool and what's new. Okay, we're at Eurobike 2022, the brand new location here in Frankfurt. Really excited to be here because you see really cool things like this. So we're on the Gates stand. So Gates make the carbon belt drive system that you can probably see down here. And this is probably one of the coolest executions of it that you can see. Now this obviously it could just be a single speed off-road bike, it could be an urban bike, it could be whatever you want it to be. And that's made by Sauer, this frame, and it's actually really reminiscent. It reminds me of the old Kona frames, the Huma Huma Nuka Nuka Pua. Which was their beach cruiser essentially, and even the fork looks a little bit like the old Project 2s, but this one's just been beautifully put together. Absolutely love the Gates system on here, and they've even got a 3-piece crank, which is a prototype, and unlike a 3-piece crank that's welded to an axle, this one's using a slimmer axle, so 24mm, and it's got a Shimano bottom bracket on there, so it's actually infinitely more usable than the BMX style. Running a set of Bergtechs on there, Hope hubs on there running single speed, and it's even got like Alpine touring brakes, which are silver just to blend in with it. I think onwards, let's find some more mountain bikes. Okay, this is easily the coolest thing that I've seen here at Eurobike 2022. So this is a brand new Nucleon 16 from NICOLAI, and as you probably noticed, it's got a pretty wild system going on that might be familiar to you. So remember ages ago on the tech show, we reported on the Lao Super Drive system. Now there's like so many cool things going on about this. So you think about a regular derailleur system, it's hanging down in harm's way, one of the things that people penalise it for, but also you think about what the derailleur does. It's got the 2 pulley wheels on there, or the guide wheel. So you've got the wheel at the bottom, which takes care of chain tension, and the wheel at the top that takes care of shifting the gears. This is essentially a remade derailleur. It works in the same way, it's just the way it's mounted is different, and it only has the single wheel. So it changes gear here at the back, and you've got this wheel here at the front, which is on a damped system, a speed-sensitive damped system, to give you basically the chain tension. Now the thing that's cool about this is it has almost no resistance when you're moving it slowly, so at low speed. So when you're changing gear, sometimes on a clutch-based mech, you can feel like you're fighting the clutch a bit to change gear, yeah? And then when you hit something hard, the damper kicks in, so it gives you loads of chain tension. So a speed-sensitive system with a damper that's just located in here, cable operated, high pivot system. It needs the high pivot with the idler wheel in order for this chain tension to work, and you've got a bike that basically is a fairly bomb-proof design, yet it still uses existing chain and cassette componentry, which of course, as we know, has got the least amount of resistance as far as what you're trying to fight when you're pedaling. So I guess you could say it's a hybrid system, sort of making the most of what you can get from a gearbox system, but with a slightly more regular configuration. Now this is a unique collaboration between the 2 brands at the moment, and you're going to be able to buy this bike very soon. I think this is seriously exciting. If you are a wrecker of bikes, you want something a little bit different, something that's going to perform really well, or if you're like a seasonaire, you want something you just know you're not going to be smashing mechs off, that is a bike for you. I mean, it's a NICOLAI for starters, which is pretty badass, right? Honestly, I never thought I'd say it, but I think I've finally found a gravel bike that I want. Look at this thing. This thing is absolutely ridiculous. So as you probably gathered by now, Rockshox have got a brand new range of trail and hardcore enduro forks available. You've got the Zeb, you've got the Pike, and of course you've got that Lyric there, all of which have availability with that new damper in there with a buttercup system at the bottom. I have made a video detailing all that stuff already on GMBNtech, so that's going to be floating around down there if you want all the fine details on them. But I don't know about you, the one I have is the Pike. That's the one I run. Which one would you have? So this is the Bold Lincoln. It's a LT version, so 150mm travel. Now obviously the coolest thing you've got to see about this, firstly, in a completely superficial way, it's the same green as the Lyrics, which is the coolest colour available right now. But more importantly, being the Bold bike, it has the hidden shock design. So there is one there with a little cavity cutaway so we can actually show you the inside. But I've been following these guys for a long time. I did some features on these back in my print and my digital days before doing filming for YouTube. And they've been mastering this system for years, capitalising on that void of space that you just don't use on the bike. Now some people might not like the idea of not being able to infinitely adjust the shock easily. But let's face it, once you've got your shock absorber set up the way you like it, you don't really change too much on it. You've obviously got a handlebar remote there, so you can adjust what you need to from there. You've got an access flap here, and it's neatly driven on the inside. So on the rocker here, there's a spur that runs off that rocker that drives the shock. I absolutely love the design. I think that just looks visually stunning. I love the fact as well that Bold hasn't kind of been swallowed up by Scott. The engineers have been working together to make the Scott bikes, but the Scott bikes are not Bold bikes. They're just using the technology. Bold still exists as a brand, and that really pleases me. So you might remember from Eurobike last year, I was checking out the Intend forks on an Active 5 bike and also on a Last bike. There's a whole bunch of cool tech stuff, and they had that crazy offset on the fork crown. Now this is a seriously cool product. So as you can see, well, you probably can't see from here, but it's offset on the fork crown, but for a very different reason. So it's not just done for out and out performance on the bike. This is done to make this the lightest possible fork. So you might notice that the axle doesn't stick out on the front like it does on a lot of forks. And by making it like this, you can make the fork exceptionally light. So you're just reducing material that goes on the actual fork itself. So this is an inverted cross-country fork. This one weighs 1,380 grams with an uncut carbon steerer tube on there. So that's substantially lighter than the SID out there. It's got 120 mil travel as it is, but although you can reduce travel down to 100 mil. Now, a few other cool points to note is the stanchion tube that's on the braking leg is regular, but on the non-brake leg is a little bit lighter. The wall thickness is different on there to further reduce the weight. And on the inside of the leg, it uses the SRAM race day damper on there. So the concept behind this is that essentially Cornelius couldn't find anything that worked as well that was that light. He goes, this is the best out there. So if you've got a RockShox SID, you're in the right place already. And the idea on the model of this fork is you buy the damper yourself from your RockShox dealer, and then these guys will fit it to a fork that's bespoke the way you want it, 100 mil, 120 mil, etc. But the fact is, it's ultra light, an inverted XC fork. I think it's absolutely insane. Now there's the XC, there's the CC model, and there's obviously trail models in the range, but this is the super light one. 1,380 grams, mental. You might notice the flat mount brake on there as well, and in particular the way it fastens. So essentially it's the lightest way you can have a caliper on there anyway, because it's flat mount. And look at the fitting on there. So this one has a regular bolt, although the bolt's not in there, just for illustration. You actually use a 3mm Allen key to actually slot in and adjust it. Basically it's the only way to use this sort of design on here. But again, further lightweight setting. I love it. Mad, isn't it? So one of the talking points in the show at the moment seems to be the ABS system co-developed with Bosch and Magura. Now I'm on the Magura stand naturally here looking at the system. Huge front rotor here, and as you can see, it's a big sensor on the front. Now when you say ABS and mountain bike brakes, we have had ABS in a few incarnations over the years. There were cantilever brakes that had little elliptical wheels on them that stopped the pads actually being in contact for too long. Atrocious things. And Magura have done it many times before. But actually it's always had a bias to town bikes, urban bikes, which makes perfect sense. You don't want to lock the wheels up. But Jonesy over in GMBN has been riding this system, and he cannot believe just how well it works. Now, I have no idea because I haven't ridden this, but I know I lock up my front wheel here and there when you're riding on routes and loose surfaces. When I made that Magura video earlier in the year in southern Spain on that downhill track, one of the things I was having severe problems with was locking up the wheels. Now this has nothing to do with the way I was riding, it's simply as the terrain. You're very limited in how you can use the brakes. And the second I was locking wheels, including the front wheel, you're losing traction and it's quite nervous to ride. And I've ridden a long time, I'm comfortable on most surfaces. Jonesy reckons that is a genuine game changer, up there with hydraulic brakes and suspension. I am so keen to try this system. I know I can feel a lot of people saying like, why do you need ABS? But I reckon that is a secret weapon. I want to get some, and I want to go back to that downhill track that I did the testing on, just to see how different that setup is. I reckon that'd be really interesting. So as you probably imagine with the ABS system, I've had to completely reconfigure the way the brakes work. So you've got much more oil going on in the actual braking system. You've got to bear in mind that the pressure changes as the ABS system is working. It's not possible with the existing systems out there. And even the bore in it is different. So you're talking up from 10mm up to 12mm. That's what that piston is pushing through the lines. So that is a seriously incredible piece of kit. Every year I come and see the Topeak stand, and every year I think you can't possibly make any more tools. And there's a whole new floor of tools here to check out. So they've got workshop spec torque wrenches, and these, I mean it says do not touch, but I'm not going to listen to that, am I? So there's two sizes in these Torque Stick Pros. You've got 2 to 10 newton meters and you've got 4 to 20 newton meters. Obviously I'm going to have to get both of these, bit of a problem. You've also got the mini ratchet inside here for quickly getting things tightened up. And even better than that, you've got this tiny little one for getting small, hard to reach bolts just done up. and then you obviously got the full-size actual torque wrench in there. That is a beautiful little set, and something quite unexpected, I thought, from Topeak actually. They're experts at making multi-tools and trailside stuff, but from my perspective, to have something like that for the workshop, that is really cool to sort of go along with all the trailside stuff. And another tool from Topeak, which just cracks me up, they keep making new tools. As you can probably see in the background here, capitalising on that hollow bottom bracket axle you characteristically see on Shimano cranks, so in the 24mm axle, and on the SRAM BB system with their dub. You get different size rubber bungs on these, and it's basically just using that free space. So this one is just a sample, but it can be available with chain tools and a multi-tool built in. Just don't forget, that can stay on your bike. You don't have to carry any additional tools. And following on from that as well, you've got further additions to the stealth style range. So you've got ones that can fit in the bar ends, in the handlebars or mountain bike bars, and also on drop bars. So if you're a gravel bike, you can continue to carry tools on the bike. No more faffing around carrying stuff in bags. Friction and watt saving isn't exactly something that's top of the pops as far as mountain biking goes. Definitely more associated with our tarmac loving friends over on GCN, but having just been looking at this, I think there is a whole world we need to tap into that we've not been paying enough attention to. Mountain biking, yeah, all right, you've got tyres with different amount of friction depending on the tyre pressure you run them at and the compound you run them at. But look at this, for example. So it's got ceramic speed bottom bracket in here. It's got the larger pulley wheels going on, and check the lack of friction in this. Right, this is quite amazing. In fact, if I just take the chain off this for a second, I'll just spin this and we'll just leave this going for a little while. So you think if your chain is trying to go around at an acute angle, so the smaller the sprocket, smaller the guide wheels on here, the more the chain has got to do basically to get around. You're creating friction. By having a nice big one, you're reducing that. These in themselves will keep on spinning, they'll keep on spinning. And we've just been finding out that they're using this technology in pulley wheels that you're seeing on high pivot bikes. A lot of high pivot bikes are going for bigger idler wheels on them now for the same thing. The marginal gains in trying to reduce friction. How many buzzwords can you get in on one bike? Gravel, titanium, handmade, oil slick, belt drive, gearbox, tan walls, drop bars. It's kind of got it all, isn't it? I actually think this is really, really nice. Something about a pretty pure looking bike, and having a belt drive on there and having a gearbox manages to do that. Still curious about how they ride though, so need to spend a bit of time on those this winter, I reckon. Okay, day one done here in Frankfurt for Eurobike 2022. I've seen so much stuff, I'm going to lose my voice if I keep going on. Please let us know what you loved from today's video, and don't forget, tune in for more of the same tomorrow. I'm done. Cold beer time. See you later.